I made the long journey from Pennsylvania to Montana by myself with the children, but my son, Daniel, was a teenager and helped take care of the younger children. He was attentive, protective of the family, and was a great son, brother, and friend. The move wasn't easy, but we adjusted. It wasn't long after arriving in Butte that our lives were forever changed. My family was at home, settling in for the long, cold night. Daniel was not home because he was finishing up his shift as a clerk at Grail's grocery. He was always a curious boy, but not one to get into trouble. So at first I didn't worry when he didn't return that evening. I was preparing for bed when I heard the commotion. At that moment, I didn't realize Daniel was there in what would be the last moments of his life. He was on his way home from work when he was drawn to the fire. He saw two of his friends watching the fire. Such an innocent thing to do. 3 boys huddled together to watch the actions of the firemen attacking the fire. Their beautiful fire horses pulling the fire hoses and wagons. Daniel was with his friends when the unexpected happened. A massive explosion erupted into the cold night, sending large amounts of deadly debris in all directions. My sweet Daniel was among the many innocent bystanders struck by objects, and his injury was fatal. My baby was gone. A flying missile struck Daniel in the back of the head, killing him instantly. His 2 friends were lucky to escape death and could recover. I will not say that Daniel's friends made a full recovery, because a full recovery isn't possible when you watch your friend lose his life. Daniel's friends live with the recurring memories and horror of that night, a burden that no one should have to bear. I couldn't live, eat, or breathe in the same state where Daniel died. We decided to move back to Pennsylvania immediately. My family appreciated it when the railroad officials agreed to provide free shipment for the deceased to anywhere in the country. I traveled for the last time with Daniel, bringing him back home only a year after arriving in Butte, because I did not want him traveling alone. He was gone from the earth, but will forever be in my heart. There is one thing I don't understand. A woman is a widow when she loses her husband, and she becomes an orphan when she loses her parents. But there is no word for a woman who loses a child, for such a great loss, and there is no word, there is no single word that can define or express what it is like to lose a child.
My name is Mary Leonard Fraser, and I was born in Illinois. On September 1, 1872, I married the handsome William H. Fraser, who was from Canada. We began our family in Minnesota with the birth of 4 children, Maggie, Elizabeth, William A., and Stanley. Before we moved to Butte in 1879, we lost Maggie at 16 months. Butte was so smoky and chaotic, we yearned for a piece of peaceful land to call our own. We finally found our home in the Big Hole Valley in the 1880s. On October 22, 1882, our son Gibbon was born. He was the first white male baby born in the Big Hole Valley, and everyone adored him. We moved around the valley several times, and my husband was a trustee in several of the schools he helped build. We welcomed 3 more children, Ross, Ella, and Ray, filling our home with 7 children. William passed away when Gibbon was 7, and the children and I moved to Butte. Gibbon loved Butte and made many friends. He was an inquisitive child and was always in the middle of action. I relied on him to help me with chores, errands and watching his younger siblings. The night of January 15, 1895 was very cold. The children and I were ready to get in our nice warm beds when a neighbor came to tell us about the fire. Gibbon wanted to check it out, but I thought it was too cold. Gibbon, being 12 years old, begged to go to the fire and said he would be careful. He threw on his coat and hat, gave me a hug and a peck on my cheek, and out the door he flew. I was straightening up the kitchen when a loud noise violently shook the house. My windows were broken. Before I could gather my wits, a second blast occurred. I put blankets over the broken windows and waited for Gibbon to return excitedly to tell me what had happened. After what seemed like an eternity, I saw a boy running up the street. I was ready to open the door as soon as Gibbon was on the step. Unfortunately, it was not Gibbon, but his friend. He told me that Gibbon was badly hurt and was taken to Sisters Hospital. I had to get there as soon as possible, but first I had to get neighbors to watch the younger children. Sisters Hospital was in chaos. Stretchers were everywhere. Doctors and nurses were trying to decide how to care for so many people. They shook their heads when I asked them about Gibbon Fraser. Where was my boy? I decided to look for myself. On a stretcher was a small shape covered with a blanket. It was Gibson. He was unconscious, pale and covered in blood. His clothes were in tatters and an arm and leg bent in an unnatural way. He was alive, though, and to save Gibbon, I called the doctors over and they immediately rushed him off to surgery. While waiting for word of Gibbon's surgery, I heard people talking about flying metal and boards from the violent explosions that injured and killed many men and horses. Finally, I was able to see Gibbon. He looked so small and frail, all wrapped in bandages. I was told his situation was very serious. I still remember the days his brothers and sister and I sat by his bedside, talking to him, singing songs, telling him we loved him, but he never opened his eyes or spoke to us. Each day he became more frail. We prayed harder. He was only 12. He had to get better. We couldn't imagine life without his presence. Gibson slipped from our lives 14 days after the explosion. We cried. We begged him to breathe, but he was gone. Our cries of sadness were so pitiful, the whole hospital mourned with us on the other side of the closed door of Gibbon's room. Our family moved on after the death of Maggie and William, but nothing prepared me to lose Gibbon. The walk home knowing I had to tell the other children that Gibbon was gone was just a blur. I just wanted to crawl into bed to escape my reality, but I had to move forward, giving the other children the love and care they needed. I was so thankful the neighbors rallied around our sad house and helped me plan Gibbon's funeral. Until my dying day, I will tell stories of Gibbon's life and terrible death. He was the youngest victim, and I do not want him forgotten. His name needs to be passed on to future generations along with the names of others lost from the night of horror. If we tell the story and say their names, they will not be forgotten, but will live on in history. When I too enter into eternal rest, I will lay in St. Patrick's Cemetery next to my husband William and Gibbon. We will be together again. Until then, Gibbon, I carry you in my heart.